All right, so continue on the CSS selectors, right? So this is the rule for selecting. You want to select something like a class and an element, right? This is how you do it. So I can just say font size 0.2 rem, right? Of course, you can't even say it, right? So let's leave it at 1 rem. Okay, so now another rule for selecting, okay, let's say you want to select elements, right? Element and element, right? So let's say you want to select section. Inside this section you want to select, no, let's don't do that, we've already done that. Let's say inside this form you want to select this input, right? And then let's give this an ID. Let's say an ID, right, of FB. Okay, so now how do you select an ID? So you select an ID. The rule for selecting an ID is you say hash, right? Hash. So you say FB, right? And let's see. Then you say font size. Let's say 3 rem. Let's see what happens. Of course, you see email address. So this is the rule for selecting an ID. Okay, so let's take this out and say just 1 rem. 1 rem. So if you want to select let's say you want to make a selection of this is the first class. All right, inside this section then we'll have this div class, which is Facebook. All right, then we'll then have this Facebook as a h1. Let's say you want to select this, you want to select this, you want to select this, you want to target this, right? So what you can do is you can say, okay, we'll have this dot section, right? All right, and we'll have this dot Facebook, and so let's say, and then you want to put your parentheses. Once to say background color, let's say purple. All right, we're just playing with this, right? Of course, you see we have targeted this. So this is how you do multiple class selection, right? And with this rule, you can also target the h1 inside these. So you can target the h1 and say h1, right? And then you go here and say something like color, right? You say color and you say that is, let's say this. Let's see, of course it changes. So this is basically how the CSS rule selector goes, right? So if you want to select an element, if it is an element, just name the element. Like if it's a p tag, just say p and then say something like font size and say 2 rem, right? And of course we have this login to Facebook, correct? So this is how the CSS rule selector is. Actually there's nothing difficult here. And yeah, so in future videos we are going to go over the pseudo selectors, right? We'll go over the pseudo selectors, but for the sake of this this basic tutorial, we are not going to use any pseudo classes, right? All right, thank you so much for watching, and in the next one we'll start designing our page.